Hey, how's it going, guys? We're here talking some Penn State football today. Today we have Robby General from the Muncie Star Press as our Ball State guest. How's it going, Robby?
It's going well. Get a little bit of a day off here on Labor Day before we get back into.
Yep. So, Ball State's a program that the casual fan looks at and says, okay, Penn State's going to beat up on them. But anybody that has followed Ball State at all knows that last year they won the MAC and they returned a lot of production from that team. So, do you think that Penn State should be looking at Ball State and should be worried about losing this game?
Yeah, I think it's one maybe I guess from Penn State's perspective. They had that emotional win obviously on Saturday, and then it's hard not to look ahead at Auburn in a week. But I mean, Ball State is a team that I mean, as you said, they returned pretty everyone from that squad last year, um, offensively, defensively. Production. They didn't look so great in their opener, but I think week one times that happens. I mean, you saw it all day Saturday. Teams just kind of have an off day. Best teams in the country. So, but yeah, no, I think this is it's a tricky for Penn State, and historically, I mean, Ball State has been really good against ranked teams. But last year they won back to back game MAC championship against a ranked Buffalo squad. Then they beat San Jose State at Zona Bowl. So I think this is a game that realistically, Ball State's thinking that they could win. I'm curious to kind of see how they were in front of what's almost certainly the biggest crowd any of these guys will have seen ever. So,
Yeah, a crowd that a lot of Penn State fans are looking to get back to. I expect it to be rowdy, even though the whiteout's probably going to be the big one against Auburn. This is definitely going to be a celebration to get back into Beaver Stadium. So, any players to watch to expect to break out, maybe against Penn State, maybe being one of those annoying players that gives Penn State trouble?
yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, when you look at it offensively, I think it starts and ends with Justin Hall. Wide. He's also a kick and punt returner. He can kind of do. But last week, I mean, he had 8 catches, 137 yards. He had like a touchdown to get things started. Then he had like a 47-yard touchdown where he just kind of secondary. So he's really tough. The receiving core is honestly pretty talented. At Jay Sean Jackson this year, who was at Cincinnati last year, and do too much in the first game, but through fall practices, I mean, he's in that group, and then you got a big guy in Johannes Tyler that can kind of just go up there and passing game is really kind of what Ball State hangs their hat on a little bit. Obviously, you got who's been the starter for a couple of years, but then running wise, they didn't have one of their main guys in Ty Evans, who's kind of a big bruise back, and he's been out all fall camp, so I'm not sure if he'll be there for Penn State. Will Jones, who's a fifth-year senior, carried the ball really well, and Carson Steele, he looked really impressive, and I wasn't sure how they were going to implement him into the offense, but man, he broke through for like a 30 down right up the middle. He's a downhill runner, really strong kid from Indiana. Obviously, know him. He was Indiana Mr. Football. His the mix, and then Donnie Marcus is kind of a quick back whose night could have been a little better if a pass didn't go over his head. You might be looking at it statistically a little different. So offensively, just a lot of weapons, and then across the offensive line, you got 4 out of 5 starters from last year as well, and the fifth one is a Michigan State transfer. So a good situation, probably the best situation I remember offensively for Ball State this year for sure.
So yeah, your view on Penn State. I'm just curious how it is. Last year we struggled a lot. Obviously, we got the big win against Wisconsin. What do you think that Ball State's going to have to look out for coming into this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just from what I saw watching the game on Saturday, I think they kept saying it over and over in the broadcast with Penn State's defense. It's that bend don't break mentality. And Ball State kind of has that as well defensively. So it was kind of funny kind of hearing it over and over. But for Ball State, it's just going to be about finishing drives. Against Western Illinois, the offense did not really get going until the second half. Then they started putting together some some drives. But offensively, last Thursday it was for Ball State. They just kind of looked off. And you can't do that when you're coming in against Penn State. So I think for Ball State against Penn State, it's going to be finishing those drives and then limiting those big plays. And that's the thing that Penn State on Saturday. I mean, there was a lot of big plays that kind of swung the momentum of that game. And Ball State, what hurt them last Thursday was giving up big pass plays, right? I mean, they got torn up. What's his name? Dennis Houston from Western Illinois. I mean, he had 12 catches, 237 yards. 75 of those came on one play, but I mean, you got to limit those big plays if you're Ball State. So I think honestly, Ball State's going to have to play kind of a perfect or near perfect game. Because I mean, Penn State, I think there's a lot of anticipation on this season. A lot of people hoping for a good year. So if Ball State's going to want to knock them down, I mean, they're going to have to come out fast, and they did not do that against Western Illinois.
Yeah. So Dan, things here. What's your score prediction?
Oh, score prediction. I always try to stay away from score predictions. Let's do maybe like 31-17 Penn State. I think Ball State's going to have to do a lot of things right. And just based off that first game, I know they don't want to kind of repeat that. I think this is going to be a tough game for Ball State. But then again, I mean, you look a couple of years ago, they hung with a top-ranked Notre Dame team, and they seem to play well against these big opponents. So, maybe let's do 31-21, something like that. Maybe like a 10-score game. Or 10-point game. I think it's going to be interesting, and it's really just going to be about how they come out and having the moment not be too big for them in front of 100,000 or so fans.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Robby. Always follow him on the Multi-Star Press, and always